All right, guys. Welcome back to the pod. We are next time going to start on page 43. Today we'll be looking at pages 39, 40, 41, 42 of the Four Agreements. So we left off talking about gossip, and before that talking about certain types of speech, especially negative speech, being considered something similar to black magic. And the conversation continues to talk about gossip in more detail, more as a form of imprinting. They call it imprinting an emotional code. And they kind of talk about it as similar to a computer virus, saying that, when somebody is basically taking gossip and sharing it with others, it's almost like a form of poison that kind of gets into the system, similar to a virus or like a computer virus. And it's almost similar to comparing black magicians, like people who practice black magic, to computer hackers who spread the virus. So it would mean that, the black magic would be the negative content of the speech, the gossip, and the black magicians would be the person sharing the gossip, or they would actually be considered something similar to computer hackers sharing a virus, and that then infects another person or a group of people, and it just spreads the negativity in that way. And yeah, on page 42, it talks about how this is related to the first agreement, which is being impeccable with your word. A quote I can take from it is like pretty much at the beginning of page 42 after the break. It says, For years we have received the gossip and spells from the words of others, but also from the way we use our word with ourselves. All of that would mean, how we talk to ourselves, the negativity, the negative self-talk. They put in quotes, I look fat, I look ugly, I'm getting old, I'm losing my hair, I'm stupid, I never understand anything, I'll never be good enough, I'm never going to be perfect. And this would be considered using the word against ourselves. And so I found this to be a pretty powerful message. A lot of times we are taught to, I think almost everyone is taught to speak positive about themselves. Almost everyone is taught to, avoid gossip socially. Like, those things aren't necessarily praised. But one thing somebody said to me once, which I didn't want to agree with. I didn't want to agree with this at all. But, I was kind of in a little debate with somebody ages ago. And it was back when I was, around a lot of religious people practicing a pretty strict religion. And I was kind of talking about my experiences, saying, one thing that kind of got under my skin about, the religious environment was, the gossip that would go on all the time. And, that friend of mine, we would debate back and forth, and they didn't, I would say, like, the way they talked about things, their opinions in life, I do value their opinions, even though a lot of times they can come across as pretty insensitive, but also they also tell it like it is, and they're also not like oblivious to like human nature, and they have a different outlook on life that I do respect, even if we don't always see things eye to eye. We don't really agree a lot, and we grew up together since like second grade, third grade, somewhere around, no, it was maybe around second grade or so. And we've known each other for most of our lives, and our families are really close friends, like close, so close that like when the parents come over to visit my parents, like they don't even knock, like we just walk into each other's houses. It's not formal. We're just very open, like when they used to come over, they would just walk into my room or whatever, like we weren't like this person's almost like a cousin. Like, we're not blood relatives, but we used to see each other every day for like decades, and almost 20 years or so. And so when they said that it's it's human nature to gossip, like there's no way that you're ever gonna find an environment where people don't gossip. And I didn't believe it, and I was kind of like, I don't really like that. And I didn't like say, I was just kind of like, that can't be right. But then I was also thinking, like, at that time I had never experienced an environment where there wasn't gossip. And so I just wasn't too into that. But like that style of thinking, but it did stick with me, and I was kind of like, I don't know if they're right or not. And after that, once I kind of got into, being a little more independent with my choices, and I was still going to like religious services, and found a couple places that I liked a little bit more. The people had a little more mature communication styles. But the more I got involved there as well, I did come across a little bit of the same thing. But just the social circles I had, they felt safer. They felt a little bit more like, okay, I can trust these people, and they're not gonna like, I was able to be a little bit more open. And then, I took it from there, and, when I took it from there, and I had experiences kind of talking and trying to understand what was going on when me and this person were talking, and like it was just really hard, like even lately, like since I've come back to the neighborhood I grew up in and everything, and I've come back across this friend, and we've had some pretty in-depth conversations about gossip and things like that. And it's not easy to not do it. I've had some experiences where I've definitely been like I've got a friend who is always like, ooh, like, what's the cheese made kind of thing. And like, I'm pretty careful. Like, I would say I've had an experience in recent years, like when I went to that second religious environment where I was kind of interacting with people that were more my age, and it felt a little safer, and I had a crew that we were like a late night crew, and it felt a little bit safer within that group, that people weren't like gossiping so much, it didn't seem. I had an experience where, somebody told me something, kind of like they didn't really tell me like, oh, don't tell anybody, but, I knew not to really tell anybody, but, I was kind of talking to another person where, I was kind of mentioning that person's, like, I was just kind of like, oh, I feel bad that some situation happened with person A, which is a whole different person. And the person I was talking to said, oh, like, so and so likes person B, and like they have a crush or whatever. And they said it loud, like in a room full of people. In a room full of those people, that was kind of like the safe group of people. But also, like, I wasn't trying to gossip about it, but I knew that, because I knew that this person had something kind of going on. And then the other person had kind of said it out loud in front of everybody. And I was like, well, maybe they knew, that's why they said it, now that I think of it. Because I'm like, there's no way they could have assumed that I was saying that. Like, but they just kind of blurted it out. Like, oh, they have a crush on this person. And I was like, dang, man, like, that's a little brutal. And yeah, like, I think I did tell that person. I was like, man, I feel like I'm responsible for other people learning about it, because I think the pastor came and, I guess the pastor used to take some of the guys aside and be like, look, like, at this service, you don't like mess around. Like, if you like somebody, you like them. If you don't like them, just cut it loose. Like, don't, lead people on. Like, be respectful. Like, keep it like a safe space kind of thing. And when that friend came back and kind of told me that it was like really awkward for them, that they had that situation, and I was like, damn, like, I felt kind of like, oh, that's kind of my fault. But I kind of explained it, and that felt better, because at least I was like, it was just, I wasn't even saying that. I was saying some other thing that, like, because some other person had like yelled at my friend, and I was basically saying I felt bad that, like, that person, that my friend had that experience, and I was like telling somebody else that I was feeling bad about it, and I didn't really know how to like tell that person that I kind of felt bad about it. And then that person took the story and like made it seem like I was saying, oh, you feel bad about this person's crush or whatever, and I was not talking about that at all. And so, being able to explain myself kind of helped. But at the same time, I was like, that felt terrible. I was like, damn, like, I don't want people thinking I'm like spreading their business around people, and especially being like working in the field of psych. Like, I'm not really into like spreading people's business like that. Like, if I have something that's kind of like, there's some depth to it where I'm like, this is affecting me on some level, I don't mind telling my closest friends, because they'll usually just listen and hear me out and like kind of understand the situation. But it's not like they're gonna go tell everybody. And it's not usually like, it's usually like if I'm afraid for somebody's well-being or something, and I'm like, I feel like this person's maybe doing too many drugs or something like that, like, and when I try to tell them, they're not listening to me or something like that. And then it's like, I might say something like that to somebody that I know would not say something, but I wouldn't try to like make it like very well known or anything. Like, I'm not into that. I'm not into like trying to make people feel bad. But yeah, that felt a little different, like. And I have a friend that, always kind of asks me questions about other people. We kind of joke, we're like, oh, what's the cheese man kind of thing. But it's like, I'm really kind of sensitive to that kind of stuff. And I'm not really into, spreading rumors or filling people in about other people's lives. Like, the best I really can do is like, I don't say anything that's personal or say anything that other people wouldn't probably tell. But it does kind of bother me when people ask me about other people, like certain people, when certain people ask me about others, because I used to have this problem when I went to like religious services a lot, because I tend to hang out with like everybody, and so sometimes people would want to know information about others, and it was like information that they don't really need to know. And I never wanted to be like, oh, you're like spreading everybody's business. But There was one time when, I was with a group of friends and one person was like asking me questions in like a full table of people, and I was gonna say that like I don't really know what that person said, and then one of my friends, before I could say that, because I was like and then one of my friends is like, oh, we're not telling other people's secrets, I hate it when people do that to me and that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh no, like I don't even know what the person said, and I wasn't, I wouldn't do anything like that, and but I still felt bad because like somebody thought I was gonna like say something and I wasn't. But I was kind of like, that was in a way a nice experience to be like, that friend will call people on their bullshit, they'll call me on my shit, they'll call somebody else on it. And those are the kind of people that I definitely respect that. Like I would never be mad at that person for that, and I'm grateful that I have friends that are like that, that are more like, hey, there's no reason to open this conversation to a whole table of people that don't even know what's going on. And so, I I didn't want to open that whole conversation to a whole bunch of people, but it felt good that somebody was like, not okay with gossip, was kind of understanding that, we're not trying to make some weird gossiping group of friends, and, another time more recently, I mean, I've talked about all these, but another time more recently, somebody told me, like the friend that always is asking me about other people, I said something, I don't think I said anything personal, but they're always just nosy about other people's relationship status and stuff. And I was just like, my whole thing is like, if you want to know about somebody, ask them, don't ask me. And it was just kind of interesting that they brought it up at a whole table full of people, saying that I said something, but they worded it in such a weird way that I was like, what are you talking about? Like, it made like some really awkward situation. And I was actually kind of upset and mad about it, but I was like, I'm not gonna like make a scene out of it. But I think the other person was kind of sarcastic about it, but and then those two exchanged numbers, and I'm like, oh, well, you guys don't even have like each other's contact information. And so I'm like, which is stuff that I'm like surprised about. I'm like, I thought all these people talk to each other, but I guess not. But I mean, apparently they don't. But yeah, I was feeling kind of like a little bit like I just have my preferences for how I want things to go socially. And there's this like, people probably know that I like to read. So if people are interested in, I mean, I'm not like preaching religious things, but there's this Jewish type of laws, or halakha, which is called halachos of Shimras Halashon, and it's basically condensed, and it's from this website, chavetzchaimdaily.org. And I don't expect people to like care to want to like read it or whatever, but like, you don't have to like want to read it. But yeah, like if you go on it, like for example, I think the latest one they posted at the moment when I'm recording is for the Jewish month of Sivan, days 20 to 21. So basically, it has June 8th of 2023. Today's June 10th, but it has June 8th, and it says Chofetz Chaim, daily 20 Sivan. It says it basically has it written in this really weird way, because there's like transliterated Hebrew, I guess, and then it says the information in English right after. So it has two sentences right next to each other, and one of them doesn't look like it makes any sense unless you can kind of interpret that. But it says, so Lashon Hara is basically like it's like keeping the tongue or the word, like kind of like what you say basically. And it just says one should rebuke it says LH for Lashon Hara speaker. So one should rebuke someone who's like spreading rumors. It says cleave to, I don't know what Chachamim means, but cleave to whatever that is, and do not join a Lashon Hara group. Do not speak Lashon Hara in shul. Shul is like a religious place of study, like a temple basically. Do not speak Lashon Hara about, I don't know what a Chacham is, or old person. Definitely not in front of them. So every day it has these little like explanations of rules about Lashon Hara that are like little bitty pieces of information to kind of, for me, I just kind of think about it. Like, I don't really like say that I put it into any kind of practice or any kind of like anything. Like, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, like, don't do that. It's interesting to think about. But I don't do it every day. I would say like every time I want to, which is like maybe once a month or twice a month or something. But I like it. Like, it's kind of, I do have a hard time like gravitating towards some religious content, because it's like sometimes I'm just like over that kind of thinking. It just seems so small and closed-minded and prejudiced, and I'm just sometimes not fully into all of it. But the ones that are kind of more like focused on building community and safe spaces and not being all like prejudiced and like judgmental and stuff, I kind of really like that. And so I kind of gravitate towards it for that reason, not necessarily for like a religious practice or anything. So I don't know what you guys think. You don't have to read it or anything. Like, I'm not trying to like preach anything, but you know, that's the only thing I really know about, honestly, that's about those types of topics. And it's kind of something interesting, because I would say it's one thing that like most people hate. Like, most people hate other people gossiping about them. Most people would not be, oh yeah, go ahead, gossip, I love this, you know. Most people hate those experiences. But then a lot of other times, like, even if somebody hates those experiences, they won't really do anything. So I don't really know. It's kind of weird, guys. But it's like a lot of times people won't even like, you know, even if they feel wrong about it or bad about it, it's hard to really do anything about it. And so, but it is a problem. I mean, when you're in a community, nobody wants people like being all in their business and like telling everybody everything. I don't think anybody wants that. So it's always good food for thought, but it's probably one of the harder things in social circles to try to like actually take the ego out of it and try to like be, you know, nice and kind. But with that, thanks for listening.